Really like your backdrop. Are all the books that you have written or you have read or you recommend?
No, this is my reading. I have not inflicted my books on the world yet.
Okay, okay, fantastic. And for those who are actually joining us right now on this live, thank you so much. AI is something that I'm like constantly following, but the news that we get out there, especially through social media, through Instagram and TikTok, is not always the accurate news or the news about how all this AI development and research is trickling down to our everyday lives. And to talk about this, on the podcast today with me is a professor, Ravi Aron. Did I get your name right? Is Ravi Aron?
Very good.
Oh, fantastic. He's a professor of healthcare strategy and technology at Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. He's also the research director and founder of the Healthcare Business Institute at the University of Houston. And I was actually going through, all the places where you have been cited, and it's like the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Economist, Time Magazine, Economic Times of India, Fortune, Forbes, BusinessWeek, the CIO and CFO magazines as well. So I'm glad that you agreed to come on my podcast. It's actually called the Leena Shah Show podcast, and part of it goes on a radio station as well on 103.5 Hum FM, and the rest of it goes to around 250,000 followers across all social media platforms.
Interesting, and
And
thank you for having me again.
of course, so the reason we are having this conversation today is because we're seeing a lot of AI happening, like news from China. They are robots and things are going wrong. Then Anthropic is coming forward. There's like something happening between the government and Anthropic. And all this news is actually creating a kind of chaos. And some people are loving it. Some people are hating it. I want to know what your experience is. When did you personally think that AI is going to change everything? And were you terrified or were you excited about it?
All right. So let me set the tone by giving you an important contextual background. Okay.
Sure.
AI sort of captured public attention with the arrival of the chatbots, the Chat GPT, etc.
True.
That branch of AI is called Gen AI or generative AI. This generates content. All right. This is what we call
Right.
Gen AI.
Right.
But there was another kind of AI, predictive AI, which recognizes very complex mathematical patterns and makes predictions based on those patterns. That has existed for a very long time. Perhaps the earliest people to joust with AI started in the late 1960s. And that was all
Wow.
predictive. Yeah. Before I was born. That was all predictive AI. And it moved on. It moved on in fits and starts. Sometimes two steps forward, a step to the left, a step to the right, a step back, another step forward. Gradually, it kept improving. The advent of convoluted neural networks, also called neural networks, it started probably in University of Toronto. Hinton and others, he got the Nobel Prize, in fact, and others started using it extensively. And more complex mathematical patterns with very large data sets could be predicted. So, for instance, if I were to throw in 25 million data points from Indonesia and then talk about, ask the predictive AI model to predict if there is a change in the price of essential cereals that people eat, how will that dietary consumption pattern change next summer? It could make that prediction. But
Wow.
that
Okay.
was not ChatGPT. There were no LLMs. We are now looking at 2005, 2010, 2014, 2015. It
Okay.
was these were tiny pieces of ice floating around on the water. The general public experienced predictive AI without knowing predictive AI was taking place. So, for instance,
Okay.
if a credit card company wanted to ask the question, should I offer Lena a Platinum American Express card or not? It crunched a bunch of data and said, oh, Lena would be a fantastic customer. And you received a card offer. But you didn't know predictive AI was being used.
Wow. So there's like no question about adopting AI or not, because some people are thinking like that, naive people like me, because we have already been adopted by AI for like at least a decade now
That is
or two.
beautifully put. Well before you, that's so very elegantly phrased. Well before you decided to adopt AI, AI decided to adopt you, or aspects of your lifestyle, and made predictions which companies use. Airlines sent you holiday offers, TripAdvisor would send you something, your Yelp would suggest restaurants that you may find interesting. All of those predictions were made. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, what happens with the arrival of ChatGPT? Mr. and Mrs. Smith could suddenly start speaking in English language to a disembodied presence in the ether, which started answering the question. My
Right.
76-year-old aunt in Burlington, Vermont, somebody like a substitute mother for me who raised me when I was a kid,
Mhm.
she's planning a trip to Bali with her husband, and she could go and ask ChatGPT, hey, look, I'm interested in spending 4 or 5 days on the beach with my husband, and then I want to go and see some old ancient relics and temples, and I want to see the different kinds of dance forms in Bali. It asks her
Mhm.
questions, it asks questions about her husband, and then it starts customizing a tour itinerary for her. That's when general public woke up and said, I don't have to write programs. I can speak to this thing and it seems to understand me. ChatGPT, version after version of ChatGPT came, and then I would say there was a discontinuity, and then there was Anthropic and Claude.
Right.
Suddenly, you could start using it to write programs, do technical tasks, ask very detailed questions. My 76, 78-year-old aunt could ask about her husband. His right knee is getting a little bit dodgy. Should he change his trainer? Should he change his train routine? All kinds of stuff it started. It would ask questions about his health, about his diet, about his blood composition, blood work details, and start putting together information. That was when the general public woke up and said, I'm ready to adopt AI or not. Now we come to your
Right.
question. Will AI change everything? First question. And two, am I terrified? Am I hopeful? So the first question
Mhm.
is, it'll change many things, but it will not change everything, especially in healthcare delivery and life sciences.
Mhm.
If there is a sustained period of change over a long time, what would happen is after about 8 or 10 years, the delivery of healthcare, as indeed the delivery of so many other things, may look very different from how it is done today. So the best
Mhm.
way to think about this is there were these phones, the mobile phones and cell phones that people started using in 1998, 99, 2000, etc. Various kinds of cell phones, flip phones, candy phones, etc. And
Right.
steadily gains were being made in technology. And then roughly around 2006 or 7, Steve Jobs introduced iPhone, and suddenly the phone, which was a mechanism by which I would call you and talk to you, from a communication device, it also became an internet communication device, it became a media
True.
device, and the computational power changed. But over a period of 26 years, what an iPhone or a
True.
smartphone in 2026 does is nothing compared to what it did in 2000. It didn't change altogether overnight, but a sustained period of change. My 11-year-old niece or my 14-year-old nephew, if I were to show him a flip phone or a candy phone from 1999, he would say, Uncle Ravi, what the hell is this and what did you use it for? So many
True.
things will change, and if that pace, it could be very different 15 years from now.
Wow.
which
Wow, that's, you know what, there you refer to your aunt who actually, started looking up online, asking questions about a knee, and should we change the joggers and upload the blood work. A lot of people are doing that. They are actually, okay, there is a whole generation that diagnoses themselves on TikTok, but that's usually mental health. But people are using ChatGPT, Claude, and all kinds of these generative AI applications to diagnose themselves or their loved ones. What do you have to say to these people? Should we continue on doing it? Is it safe?
it is useful if you know what precautions to take.
Okay.
With this question is also paired to your other questions. Am I optimistic or am I scared? I am cautiously optimistic. Actually, let me not hedge my bet so much. I'm a bit more than that. I'm optimistic. But to go back to this question, should they continue? Dr. Google, Dr. Claude, Dr. Chat GPT, no. But diagnostic assistant Google, intelligent assistant Claude or Chat GPT, yes. But it should still get processed by your doctor. See, Lena, in telecommunication, there is a very crucial concept called the last mile into your home. That wire that comes
Last mile in?
into your home,
Okay.
okay? That wire that comes and connects to your modem, to your cable, that connection that in the old days, in another era, when we had the landlines. I think some of your readers who speak Hindi would call it "kisi purane zamane mein." That's that kind of landlines that we had, right?
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
that was
I've experienced that. Yes, yes.
that is the last line in healthcare delivery. There is a paired concept: the last mile and the first handshake. The last
Okay.
mile of care delivery is your doctor's clinic, your managed care organization, your hospital, the physical location to which you will go to meet with your doctor. And the first handshake is the actual first clinician. It could be a physician's assistant, it could be a nurse, it could be the doctor herself that meets with you. Those two are not about to go away. The last
Right.
mile may be transformed in 3 to 5 years' time. We can come to that. But the first handshake still remains. In other words, my aunt could look up my uncle's dodgy right knee problem, understand it better, make some annotations, print it out, and my uncle and aunt may go to see the doctor. And my aunt may ask the doctor, Doctor, he still likes playing tennis on the weekends. Is that okay? Should I ask him to take up some other sport? This Chat GPT says sometimes when you bend down and hit a backhand in tennis or you hit a ground stroke, you're going to put a torsion stress on your knee. Is that okay for him, doctor? But she needs to ask the doctor that question. That decision will be made by the patient and the doctor together. But
Okay.
ChatGPT can give me a set of useful reminders that I may forget to tell the doctor. My aunt may
Right.
forget to say my uncle is a mild hemophiliac. When he gets a gash, he tends to bleed for a longer time. ChatGPT or Anthropic, which has looked at this case history, will say, Mrs. Smith, when you take your husband to the doctor, just remind the doctor about the following things. So those are the useful things that these AI mechanisms can do, and they can do that very well indeed. But the last mile and the first handshake are not about to go away anytime. Should not go
Right.
away.
So, to actually summarize this, what you're saying is that use it as like an assistant, not as your doctor.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I think that there are people out there. I've met some people that either they are. I feel that it's almost like a cult. Either people are too much in love with it, and there are some who are completely hating it as well, and they don't want it. And those who are loving it, I'm really afraid of them more than those who are going to actually hate it.
That's a very good point. It is there is this belief that if you get a clear and correct diagnosis, which happens pretty often from, say, Gemini Pro or Claude or Chat GPT or Grok or one of these mechanisms, it has understood your disease. No, it has not. What it does is it may compare, it may look at very sophisticated patterns in data, it may match you to the closest pattern, and it may make predictions, and it may diagnose which set of patterns apply best to you. That doesn't mean it has understood your physiology, your personal context, things that you may suffer from. That's why you still need to talk to a doctor. So people who love it may think that it is the all-knowing godly mechanism up in the Olympus with the gods, which has descended down on you and has told you everything you need to know because it understands you. It does not. But people that are fearful of it and dismiss it also make a mistake, which is to say, hey, you know what? This thing only diagnoses mathematical patterns. It's useless. Diagnosing mathematical patterns and matching you the pattern that fits you best, and thereby creating a trajectory for you, that's immensely useful.
Absolutely.
Provided you know the limits. Provided you know the limits, it's immensely useful. So I'll stop there.
Well, my next question is, like, most of my audience right now who are actually following me and watching the show is like, most of them are uncles and aunties. And for them, it's like, an auntie, she's trying to like manage her diabetes, or maybe a parent is trying to get their kids, diagnosed and putting that information in these chatbots. But when we're talking about AI in healthcare, and you are the expert on that, what does AI in healthcare look like for these folks today, right now?
Okay. So I'd say there are some particularly interesting ways in which AI in healthcare is making a difference. So I'm going to talk about what is called the iceberg model, Lena. You know why I call it the iceberg?
Why?
When a ship approaches an iceberg, most famously immortalized in Titanic, the film, you see a thick shelf of ice above the water. Okay?
Right.
That's the visual part of the iceberg. There's an enormous mass of ice below the water that your eye doesn't spot. Sonar and radars will spot it. But for every, say, 10 feet of ice above the water, there are 200 feet of ice below the water.
Right. There's like tiny bit on top and a big one on the bottom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Below the water.
Beautifully put. So AI in patient care delivery is a bit like that. There's a visible piece of the ice above. I'll come to that in a minute. But let us look at invisible things first, because we tend to miss them, right? First is, it is making a big difference in pharmaceutical, in drug discovery part of the care delivery. Protein structure and drug targets, protein structures like AI models like AlphaFold, they predict the three-dimensional structure of proteins from amino acids, large amino acid sequences that are used for first, predicting the protein structure. And that will help us target and create drugs for very specific problems. Drug discovery in terms of molecule design. What specific drug molecule is the best solution for Mrs. Smith's problem? All this you will not see. When Mr. and Mrs. Smith walk into the doctor's office and he listens very carefully and tells her, I have looked at your data, I've looked at your EHR, Mrs. Smith, and I've looked at various things. And I think in your case, we are going to recommend these two drugs. That's actually comes from all the back end, that is the below the water invisible ice. What we call in life sciences, we sometimes call this bench to bedside. Bedside is the drug that the patient reaches for in the morning, pops in a pill, takes some water and swallows it. That's the bench is the idea that a doctor in Johns Hopkins, and I mentioned Johns Hopkins because I spent a very long time there before recently moving to Houston. I was in Johns Hopkins for nearly 12 years. So
Wow, yeah, and I see that you have been received an award by Johns Hopkins University as well. When I was looking
thank
at
you very
your
much.
credentials,
Very kind of you.
Congratulations on that.
So thank you very much. So when a doctor or a physician, a researcher in a lab in Johns Hopkins thinks of the idea, that is the bench. And it moves from bench via trials, via laboratory tests and trials, and then the first trials on some living forms, and then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, FDA approval, and then it becomes a drug that Mr. and Mrs. Smith can get. That is the invisible part. And there are many aspects like genomics and precision medicine. When people tell you America spends close to 21% of its GDP on healthcare, and we're spending enormous amounts on healthcare, that is true. And here's the optimist in me speaking now. Because of genomics and precision medicine, that cost curve is going to bend in 3 to 4 to 5 years. We are going.
Oh, wow.
We are exactly when I started looking at the data and looking at trends a few years ago, I was a pessimist. But I'm now looking at what technology is doing to care delivery and to the whole life science ecosystem. It's an extraordinary opportunity. We are going to see huge changes in both the cost, which is the efficiency of care, and the effectiveness of care. So precision medicine, medical imaging, predicting outbreak of diseases, all of these things we are going to see, which Mr. and Mrs. Smith will not know when they walk into the doctor's office, but they will experience the benefits. What will they actually see? Increasingly, they will start experiencing the power of Gen AI, the large language model. Mrs. Smith could call in the hospital and schedule her appointment, and Gen AI will take care of all of that. She could say, my husband and I need to get our blood panel work done. We'd like to do that in Clear Lake. We live close to Clear Lake, but our managed care organizations, our preferred doctor, PCP, for my husband is in the Bay Area office, and my preferred PCP is in the Galleria area office. And so the LLM will understand all of this, will set up a test for them, will give them coordinates on where to get their blood panel work done, and then we'll set up physician appointments so that her husband's physician appointment would be like 10:30, 11 in the morning, and hers on the same day could be 2 p.m. so that she could finish and go there.
Like a very efficient secretary.
Exactly. She could get a referral done via LLMs, and it would be approved by the PCP, but the LLMs could handle the grunt work, the scut work associated with generating a referral. If she's going from a medication that is coming off brand to a generic, if she's going from Lipitor to atorvastatin, that could be easily done, the generic prescription, and then the LLM could ask her, Mr. Smith, which pharmacy would I send this to? Is it there's a Walgreens next to you? I noticed that of late, you've been going to a CVS in Clear Lake. Shall I send it to that CVS? You know that piece there, Lena? It says, of late, I see that you've been going to the CVS. That comes from predictive AI that looks at her past transaction, that she goes pretty often to the neighborhood near CVS for a variety of other factors. And so that CVS may be a better option for her. All of that comes into predictive AI, which feeds into Gen AI, which then asks her this question. So
wow. Like it seems like everything's interconnected.
Yes.
There are two words that you used. One is precision medicine and diagnostic imaging. So precision medicine, when you're referring to that, is it the same as customized medication or personalized medication? Now, drugs, I've read this report about how drugs will be designed for a person based on their DNA and
correct.
The problems. Okay.
That is exactly what it is.
Okay.
Hyper customization is precision medicine. It looks at my aunt and says, you're like me. She's part South Asian, part East Asian, and say, you have a disproportionate likelihood of heart disease. And your husband, Mr. Smith, is purely South Asian. He has a very high likelihood of heart disease. So, and then it looks at his genomic data. It looks at his individual. So we call it genotype and phenotype. Genotype is your basic DNA, the way you're constituted. Phenotype is what I see. I see Lena in front of me, the manifestation of the genes in your body personal, that's your phenotype. So it looks at my uncle's genotype and says, given his genotype, given what I see in the AHR, given the sophisticated pattern matching of his genetic antecedents, this is what I think you should be most careful of. These are the trade-offs I'm going to make because this is hyper customized to Mr. Smith. So those things they will experience without knowing that there are hugely powerful agents running in the back end that are making this happen. So these are in the 2 to 3 year period. If you go a little further out, without sounding like a Beam Me Scotty scenario, without sounding science fiction, I would say AI moderated medicine requires two very key enablers. One is telecommunication. As bandwidth, I have a fiber optic bandwidth, 5 terabyte bandwidth in my home because I work with very large data sets. As bandwidth becomes cheaper and cheaper and more ubiquitous, you're going to see extremely rich media transfer take place between patients and care providers. But you can also, bandwidth and its cheapness and ubiquity will mean you can surround my 76-year-old aunt with a variety of sensors. Has she been standing enough today? Did she move enough today? Did she upload her nutrition parameters today? How did she, even without asking her sleep ring will track and transmit it to a hub, which will transmit it to an AI system, which says, Mrs. Smith has been sleeping well. All of these things. We are now doing experiments on putting sensors, looking at geriatric gait. If my grandmother, who is 91 years old, looking at her gait, is she unsteady? Is she unusually unsteady? Is she likely to have a fall? Is she more unsteady in the bathroom when she gets out of her shower? Or is she more unsteady in the kitchen when she's making herself a cup of tea? Should we tell her gently, Granny, we'll make the tea for you. No more tea making. Should we do this? All of these sensors will become, we have very precise targeting and diagnosis of individuals, patients' contact from large data. That will become, telecommunication will become a force amplifier of that. Okay? The second factor is augmented reality. Many device makers, Apple and Samsung and others are playing with this. But very soon, you will have devices in the 3 to 4 year period where you can seamlessly, my aunt could be in her living room, she could wear those devices, and her doctor could have a near personal experience talking to her. She could say, after I did the reading with the drift roses in the garden, doctor, I have skin rash here. And very easily he'll say, can you take monocle lens 101, Mrs. Smith, and put it close to your, and she would put it and say, okay, that's just a basic case of, eczema. I would suggest you take a cortisone 1% ointment and put it down. LLM can pick up what it is suggesting. As soon as the conversation is over, it could say, I've already kept an order ready for you, Mrs. Smith, for cortisone 1%. If you click yes now, it will be delivered in 1 hour to your home. So all of that, with the augmentation that is possible with telecommunication and the new augmented reality devices that require rich media transfer, which means a lot of bandwidth, we are going to see all of that in the 3.5 to 6 year period.
Wow. Interestingly, I was watching this video and I follow a lot of longevity influencers, doctors, and This guy is talking about how you just have to live, make sure that you live till 2030, because if you make it to 2030, you may live forever. Would you agree or disagree?
I don't know if you will live forever, but you will live a very long time. I assume there are some very small statistical anomalies. There are some people who are outliers. Set that aside. You will live a very long time, but for me, what is much more exciting is you will live very well. There are many things that we are unable to do now. The my One of my research co-authors, who's mid 50s like me, would be he has a sweet tooth, but we will be with precision targeting. He can have a lot more of chocolates that he craves without worrying about diabetes, because things like GLP-1 drugs, etc., are really changing chronic care and diabetes care. So not just that, precision medicine would tell him, would look at him and say, Dr. Cohen, here are all the things you've got to worry about. Dr. Cohen, don't worry about heart disease. It doesn't run in your family. But colon cancer and stomach ailments runs in your family. Be very careful. And then tells him a bunch of things. So we will live very well, because preventative medicine is going to hugely transform our lives. Preventative care, the old, I think it was Ben Franklin who wrote in late 18th century, I think he said an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
True.
For the first time, we are going to see an ounce of digital prevention will be better than hundreds of thousands of dollars of cure. We are getting there. We are getting there.
Wow.
So like your friend said, maybe if the influencer said, get to 2030 with all well, you may live a very long time, but much more important, you will live very well.
Wow, I'm very excited about, especially AI in healthcare. And anyone who talks to me and who's like AI hater, I just tell them to look at, what is happening in the healthcare industry and how it's going to help us, our parents, and us eventually to live a long and healthy and a well life. You did mention, I know we're running short of time, but you did mention the word when we talked about precision medicine. You also mentioned imaging. I read a report about like how now through imaging, AI can detect breast cancer or prostate cancer 7 years earlier than a human could. Is it true?
Radiologists, so it has two very bright spots there. As you correctly pointed out, Lena, AI modules that do digital radiology, that looks at x-rays and scans and detects patterns, have become very, very good. In many, many ways, they are outperforming. In many ways they are, but in some ways they are not. We should be careful. In many ways they are outperforming radiologists with the terms of accuracy of detection. Okay? And so that's a great thing. And so a lot of tests were held back because radiologists are highly trained specialists. Their time is valuable, and you got to send it to them, and it gets into a queue, and then they have to take it up and they have to finish it. They have to look at it, make the decision, write a report, send it back. Your specialist has to approve it. It goes to your PCP, who has to approve it, and then you will see. But now,
Right.
for a vast majority of those, what I would call 94-95% of stuff, the digital AI-based mechanisms can diagnose, can very accurately spot patterns and come up with very accurate diagnosis, which a radiologist can look at and sign off. Here's why it's interesting, Lena. You picked a very, very good example. It doesn't mean we don't need radiologists. It means we've released radiologists to spend a lot more time on the really complex characteristics. Like I said a few minutes ago, the fact that AI can read that X-ray doesn't mean the AI understands something particular. There may be individual contexts of patients where the radiologist would say, I saw Allison's mammogram scan. It's fine. She doesn't have breast cancer by this, but you know what? I'm going to make a few additional points because I know a different kind of cancer problem runs in Allison's family. So I'd like these additional things to be done, and I'm going to make a note of this. I see this from EHR. So what I call context specific expertise, which pulls in a lot of inferences from multiple fields, that is still uniquely human. The ability to synthesize and associate unrelated factors and say, I need a few more tests to be done because Allison works in an industrial paint factory. And I think there are some fumes that she might have been exposed to. I don't think that's the case, but we've got to be careful. That's human specialist. So the second bright spot is all that AI in radiology has done has not made the radiology jobs go away. So the scare about specialist jobs will be lost. I don't worry about it. It will not be. Specialists will get to do what they really should do. Special intervention in special cases.
Wow, fantastic! And you put the way you expressed it. I must appreciate
Thank
this. Yeah, it's very interesting. The way you talk about it, it's almost like a story, and it's gotten me really excited about what is about to happen in healthcare. With us today, Professor Ravi Aron, Professor of Healthcare Strategy and Technology and Research Director at the Bauer College at the University of Houston. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I know your time is very precious. Would you recommend a book before you leave to our viewers, something that could be understood by a layperson like myself, but then we can get excited and learn more about what's happening?
Okay, I'll recommend a book, and I'll also recommend a short process. Eric Topol writes about AI and healthcare technology and healthcare more generally. So Dr. Topol's book, the AI Will See You Now, and how technology is making changes to healthcare, by all means, look it up.
And I'd also what's the name of the book again? Sorry, can you repeat that?
Topol, Dr. Topol. And he's written about technology and healthcare, artificial intelligence in healthcare. Any of his last 2-3 books, including I think one called the Dr. AI Will See You Now, etc. But generally, Eric Topol's writing, very, very good writer, wonderful writer. His books, and he writes for a lay audience. He doesn't write to AI practitioners in healthcare.
Fantastic.
But I'll make one more suggestion for where your readers could find stuff. Go to any of these, whatever works for them, Chat GPT, Gemini, Pro, Claude, and then specify your interest. I just say, I am 35 years old. I am a triathlon runner. I'm 30 years old. I love gardening. What are some things? I'm giving care to my mother-in-law. She is 70 years old. Mention your interest. Mention your angle and say, what are some things that I need to learn? Those will give you excellent books, but better still, it'll give you 15-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute podcasts that you can listen to. And yes, go for it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. What a great idea that is. I'm so glad, I had to, I started talking to Mohan. We met at an event and I started talking to him. The first thing that when I meet someone these days, the first thing I ask him is how AI is changing their life, basically. And that's the question I put up to him. And when I asked him to come on the podcast, he said he has just the right person to be on the podcast. And Professor Ravi Aron, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. It's a delight being here, and my very best wishes to your followers and readers and your audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lena.
And before you go, I'm going to send out an email. I'm going to request you if you can send me your your LinkedIn and
Absolutely.
If you're on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube. So when I post it, I can tag you. We'll be posting it next week, and I'll be sharing the material that we create out of this with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too, Lena. Thank you very much.
Bye.